Hi guys, how you doing today? So I wanted to address an issue that comes up a lot with using themes nowadays, and that is getting good speed scores, making sure that our semantic data is in place, having proper markup, and adding in all the features that we see on fancy WordPress sites. I wanted to show you that that is indeed today possible if we just take the right amount of time to work through images and work through systems and make sure that everything's working properly. So here I am with a nice sliding page. I've got pop-ups working the way that they're supposed to, even some custom pop-up scripts that I've developed myself to make sure that they're nice and lightweight, and even amazingly technical fancy stuff such as advanced date pickers. And what you would normally expect on a site nowadays is making sure that we have a nice, fancy, responsive site for, let's say, an iPhone. Let's take a look at this on the iPhone 5 and see if everything's working. We've got a great menu system in place. Our date picker works the way that it's supposed to. And we've got nice, fancy pop-up windows and sliders where they should be. So it is indeed possible to get all of these features in and have an amazing speed score. So I wanted to take a moment to prove this to the general community out there and also clients that by taking our time to really build from the ground up, we can get these great scores. We can get a 100 out of 100 for a user experience. When it comes to passing the rules for Google speed test, we can avoid all of these items and enable all of these items simply by taking the time to code these things from the ground up. And that actually means, yeah, sitting here in Dreamweaver and writing this code one line at a time, or Notepad or whatever editor it is that you're using, making sure that each one of our parts and our sections of our WordPress template is wired the way it's supposed to. We can cross every single one of these off. The only thing that's really out of our control as web developers now to get a 100 out of a 100 on Google PageSpeed Insights is reducing the server response time, which isn't really all that difficult. It's just a matter of getting a good server that's going to spin off everything quickly, that can be satisfied with a CDN relatively quickly. And the same thing with desktop here. I've got 9 past rules. Everything's working the way that it's supposed to. The only thing that I've got to nail is my server response time. Wanted to take a moment to take a look at w3.org services, and that would be the semantic data extractor. So I have bookmarkable points and a beautiful outline of the document, and that is mainly because this page, when I go check out my actual source, is human readable and is laid out exactly the way that it's supposed to be. It's nice, it's clean, it's minified to a certain extent, but it's not ridiculously minified. And all of my H1s, H2s, and H3s are literally on my page. It's not that hard, it just takes time and a little bit of tenacity. I wanted to then jump to my validation service. So we are dealing with good validated CSS3. I thought that I would point out that I am using Foundation, and I did have to go into Foundation 5 and root out some of the CSS in order to pass this CSS validation, but that's really just a matter of grabbing the foundation and working with it. The same thing's true with Bootstrap or UI or UIX or any of the other things that are out there nowadays. Take the time to go through, validate that CSS, and you can get these great scores. Now, the only thing that I was not able to achieve a 100% on was, of course, the markup validation service. I have one error and one warning. So my one warning, of course, comes from the fact that HTML5 is still technically an experimental feature, and my one error is because my element link for my CSS file is missing its attribute property. That's because I've wired my CSS to lazy load after the page is loaded, and the benefit is far greater than it initially appears. Achieving just a one error, one warning result on a validator in order to get a 94, if not 100% speed and a 100% user experience is a small sacrifice to make. Now this is where we meet that 7-10 split, that wall, so to speak. I can easily get rid of this error, but what I'll end up with is a deferred load of the body in order to force load my CSS into the header. So it's that wall where which one do you pick? So I'm of the mind having a one error, one warning, and getting a 99% A on this score in order to try to achieve a 100% A here by updating the server's response time is a sacrifice that's well worth it. It's kind of like, do you want a 3.999 or a 3.889? And if you're really shooting for that 4.0 GPA, so to speak, when grading your code on your site, then you might as well go for the 0.999 and shave that extra hair. It's more important to get a higher page speed score than it is to have one small minor technicality of an error on the validating service. So I just wanted to say, hey, it's totally possible, guys. I'd like to start seeing better themes come out of the communities, and I thought I would take this moment to prove that there are developers out there who are taking their time to really produce stuff and make sure that it is validated, that it does have a high speed score, and it's totally possible. It just boils down to really taking the time to work through everything, and it doesn't have to be ugly. As you can see, we've got a pretty nice layout here, and everything looks pretty attractive to me. Now, some of that I have to give a shout out to the design firm that I've been working with. That would be O Creations for this project. But in all other respective for all other respective projects, there is no reason why another developer should not be able to get these scores. Just wanted to take a moment to prove that, hey, it's indeed possible. You can have this fancy animation. You can have all of the sliders, so on and so forth. You can have the pop-ups. It's all totally doable. Just take your time, one line at a time. The way that I developed to do this is every 1 to 2 hours of development, I jump over to my validators and I make sure that I'm doing a good job. I found a good way to do that is to just put these links at the bottom of your page here. Check your CSS, check your HTML, check your semantics, and check your page speed every few minutes to make sure that everything that you're doing is working out properly. So I thought I would load this up one more time just to prove that there's not any tomfoolery going on here, and there we go. It's validated, 94 out of 100, 9 rules passed, 100 out of 100 user experience, and the only thing that I have left to now do is reduce my server response time. All of my images are dialed in, all my content is dialed in. I think that this is a really good way to explain, hey, this is what real development looks like. One line at a time, go through your code, make sure it's validated, and your output is on point. Thanks for watching.